Good morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Gradick, your host. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you to our sponsors, Oak Mountain Academy and Tanner Health. And we're very pleased and honored to have in studio State Senator Tim Bearden, District 30. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing today?
Good. I'm going to go through a little bio. I'll try to run through it fairly quickly, but here we go. Tim Bearden has been a resident of West Georgia since moving to Haralson County in 1975. And graduating from Bremen High School. He started his career in law enforcement with the Villa Rica Police Department, rising to the rank of sergeant with the motorcycle division for the Douglasville Police Department. Tim now lives in Carrollton with his wife of 28 years.
Going on 30 years. This month.
I thought this was dated. 30 years. Her name is Triska, and they have 2 adult children. Correct. In 2004, Tim was elected as state rep for House District 68, encompassing parts of Carroll and Douglas. During Tim's service in the State House, he championed conservative values by voting to cut taxes, protect life, and strengthen Georgia's immigration law. Tim eventually became the chairman of the Public Safety Homeland Security Committee. In 2011, Governor Nathan Deal appointed Tim as executive director over the Georgia Public Safety Training Center. He's currently a member of the Georgia State Senate, serving since elected last November, and serves on the committees of Banking and Financial Institutions, Economic Development, Tourism, Education and Youth, Government Oversight, Public Safety, and Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security. And just last week, he celebrated a birthday. We will keep that confidential in terms of how many years.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, well, we've got a lot to cover, so let's just jump in. We're going to jump around, and we're going to have a good time. So let's get maybe with a little bit of a hot button issue. Let's start out with that. State legislature now has prohibited for taxpayers from paying for prisoner sex changes, correct?
That's correct. That was a bill, I believe, sponsored by Randy Robertson down in Columbus. But now, was this a widespread problem? No. Has it occurred? Yes. So what we're doing is just basically saying the state will not pay for, let's say, a male in the prison to get a sex change operation to become a female. They're no longer going to pay for breast enhancements for male prisoners or any prisoners, but for prisoners in the Georgia Department of Correction system. You would think that would be common sense. But it was a very heated discussion on the Senate floor and on the House floor. And it was basically a party line votes on that bill. So you would think it would make sense that the state would not pay using taxpayers' dollars to help pay for sex changes or things like that.
There were only 5 prisoners that were making that request.
Even if it's just
number,
yes, a small number, but it shouldn't occur at all.
Yeah.
So that was a very interesting debate on the floor of the Senate, and also there's some. It was pretty heated on the floor of the House as well.
Senate Bill 1, long-standing now controversy as far as boys and girls sports. I think it was called the Riley-Gaines Act that the Senate passed.
It was. That's very simple. If you're a biological boy, you cannot play in female sports. Again, something you think would be common sense. Also, it prohibits biological boys to be in the locker rooms of girls. Make sure that the females have quarters for sleeping or changing and that type of stuff as well. So, again, this was one of those that was going back to common sense legislation, but was very well and very heatedly debated on the floor of the Senate. Same thing on the floor of the House, and it was pretty much party line votes on those bills as well. And we'll hear comments like, we was at a meeting together on Tuesday night, and someone made a comment about swimmers, and there was a female that testified. I believe she finished. I believe you had to be in the top 16 to get All-American status.
Right.
And she missed by 1.
When you say All-American, is that like Olympic?
Well, that's the NCAA. That's
okay. That's NCAA.
So And then you'll hear a comment like, well, maybe she should have swam faster because there was a biological boy in the meet, or, well, maybe she's not as good as she thinks. That is not the point here. Mm-hmm. You know, so many strides have been made in women's sports. I'm a dad. I got a daughter. She graduated high school, but, you know, these sports, to take something that they work so hard for, and my daughter was a gymnast. I know how many hours these gymnasts spends in the gym training, trying to get to that podium. So to have your daughter to work so hard, and even if it's just one occasion that this occurs, and we just saw it, I believe, up in Washington this weekend. Yeah, a biological boy basically dominated the sports events up there in high school. It took that state championship title away from the female that worked very hard. So protecting our daughters and our girls in sports is,
and I think, the two girls up there refused to stand on the podium.
Correct. So hopefully that problem now is taken care of in Georgia, and Governor Kemp signed both those pieces of legislation into law.
We're going to kind of jump around because there's so much to cover. So everybody just bear with us. One thing that is particularly of interest to me, it seems like data centers have been going in all around your district, but with the exclusion of Harrelson and Carroll, and I imagine somewhere in the future that will change. But when we talk about data centers, we hear about the deficiency of the state of Georgia to produce enough energy to fuel, to maintain these data centers. What's Georgia going to do in terms of producing more power?
I think you may have just taken the rest of the show with that question. So data centers are unique. And we're going to kind of take this back a while. They've been around for a long time. Actually, I think the first recognizable so-called data center that we see was by IBM back in the 60s.
Yeah.
So, yes, as technology has changed, the need for data centers has gotten larger. Artificial intelligence, AI, that is a race between us and the Chinese. Who's going to control AI? This administration has taken that from a national security standpoint. So, I mean, you're going to take this a little bit further back. When we look at data centers and technology, I think you're going to see, and you are seeing, data centers change. Mm-hmm. Let's look at telephones. Once upon a time, we had probably one phone in our kitchen, and the cord probably stretched out 50 feet. Now then, look what we have now. We basically have cell phones. That's nothing more than a computer with a phone app. TV's gotten larger. You can buy one now for a lot less and a lot bigger than what you used to. So these technologies change. So I think what you will see with data centers, and we are seeing them, they're looking at different ways of cooling to take the pressure off the water. We are looking at, again, when we're also going to use something that's profitable. We're going to use the free market system here. So data centers are profitable. There's no doubt. They make money. It's good tax base for cities or counties that may have these. But how do we power them? How do we cool them? The power aspect, I think, is going to come into play in the near future with things called small modular reactors. These are basically nuclear powered. They can go on about a 35-acre footprint instead of multi-thousand acres that you'll see in Vogel. Plenty of power to power not only the data centers, but make sure the residents have power when they turn the lights on for industry in those communities. So we are seeing basically a transformation to how data centers are being brought into areas and how they're going to be looked at being cooled. Things right now, even closed loop systems to make sure you don't lose evaporation.
So these SMR, small modular reactors, I mean,
Correct.
that could change the whole scenario of America if you got these small reactors scattered about.
Yeah.
Not only for data centers, but like you say, fueling communities and whatever with clean nuclear energy.
We're seeing these overseas some.
Yeah.
I believe the Tennessee Valley Authority has designated 2 locations to try to see what company can come up with the first operational one that's safe and secure and can provide the power it needs. Greg Abbott had over in Texas has designated 4 locations on Texas A&M site for the development. Not only does he want to see them, he wants Texas to be one to build them. Before we left session, we pushed for a urging resolution from PSC to take a close look at the small modular reactor and advanced reactors and report back to us and give us information so we can do a study committee probably in 2026 to look at this even more closely. You'll probably see these small modular reactors coming online 2030, 2033. But again, as things are changing and there's a need for it, you may even see them come online sooner than that.
I had the privilege of interviewing Tim Grizzard a little while ago. It's on the YouTube archive for Community Voice regarding nuclear energy. He holds a degree in nuclear engineering from Georgia Tech. And we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more, and we got a whole lot more to cover after these words.
The World Language Scholar Journey at Oak Mountain Academy is designed to provide students with a clearly defined, curriculum-based track to acquire essential knowledge and skills for success in biliteracy fields of study. The successful completion of this journey provides colleges with a method to recognize a rigorous foreign language immersion experience for all students at Oak Mountain Academy. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Consider the Mobius strip. Take a strip of paper, twist it, connect the ends. This connection forms a continuous loop. Seamless, infinite. That's how your healthcare should be too. At Tanner Health, the Mobius is our symbol and our promise, representing our continuum of care and our commitment that the services you need will be here for you always. We're not just changing healthcare, we're redefining it. See more at tanner.org.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Raddick, your host. We have State Senator Tim Bearden, District 30, on, and we're trying to run through a whole host of issues. It was kind of like, to me, it was like a bad TV game show. Should we opt in or should we opt out? It's just like, and nobody really understood it. And I think it was called, uniformly called House Bill 581, but it was passed as a constitutional amendment. Yet locally we had opting out City of Carrollton and Carroll County and the Carrollton City School Boards. And then you all had companion legislation to kind of fix it. It seemed like it was very confusing.
The House Bill 581, to me, was a simple bill. It was a constitutional amendment that would basically capped the assessment on the value of the house. I believe it was 3% or CPI, whichever one was the lowest. So the interesting piece was, why did the legislature put an opt-out version or clause in the legislation for the constitutional amendment?
That's a good question.
It wouldn't pass. There would have been no vote without it. That bill would not pass if it was strictly a opt-in vote.
Why?
We didn't have the votes for it on the floor of the Senate.
Why?
You had to have a 2/3 vote constitutional amendment on this. So we just so in the House side, that's 120 votes, and said you gotta get 38, and we just don't have the votes. So you had to put the opt-out portion into the bill just to get through the legislature. So that's why it was in there. Perfect world, yeah, you take the opt-out.
You take
the
the
provision.
the opt-out.
But a lot of comments, and even a lot of comments Tuesday night at the meeting with AMAC. This was not about county. This was not about school boards. This was about tax relief for citizens. That's where this whole bill came from. So that's what the premise of the bill was. Of course, it passed, and a lot of the counties or school boards opted out because in the bill it had a provision. There was another bill out there called House Bill 92. I believe that's what it was. It still allows, it gives a provision to allow those that opted out to opt in. And I believe that goes through 2027.
So are we going to look at this every year? Is every entity going to decide to opt in or opt out every year?
No, if you opt in, you're in. But if you're out, it gives you the opportunity to opt back in. If you look at your budgets and say this,
I understand this sunsets in 5 years. That it's over in 5 years.
It would have to be redone, I believe. So there was a lot of moving pieces on this bill.
Yeah. Okay.
Unfortunately, it's the one I don't have it right here in front of me that I could pull that up for you on. We'll use AI, though, pull it up.
We will later.
But no, that's where that bill came from. That's a perfect world. Yeah, the opt-out version would have never been in there, but the bill never passes to even get to vote if it was not.
Okay, shifting gears. We all know, I think most of us know, that Brian Kemp, governor of the great state of Georgia, has been a strong proponent of tort reform. In fact, in a mailer, it says the tort tax costs Georgians $1,372.94 each year. And basically, 86% of Georgia voters support ending lawsuit abuse and the hidden tax. So Senate Bill 68 and I think also 69 passed with the governor's hearty endorsement. Good or bad?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. If you took from the standpoint of what some are saying, insurance rates will go down.
That's the common theme.
That was kind of common theme. I hope they do. Mm-hmm. I think what we will see is a stabilization, which is very important for our small businesses and for people that buy car insurance. Anything to help stabilize the insurance costs. We hope to see costs go down. We also hope to see more insurers come into the state, which would allow more competition, hopefully drive down costs on that end. Now, the other thing you got to look at is the ability to go to the courts. It's in the Constitution. That's a right. It's under the 7th Amendment. So part of this bill is to make sure that we do the bill and make sure that we don't prohibit someone or violate someone's constitutional rights from going to court.
Which is critical because that's 7th Amendment.
Exactly.
Right to jury trial.
So that's a constitutional right that citizens have.
Which is incredibly important.
So, what someone may call abuse may be something that's not seen as an abuse in the courtroom. So we need to make sure that the citizens have the access to the courtrooms like it's demanded in the Constitution. Mm-hmm. Now we do hear comments about frivolous lawsuits. Do they exist? Yes. One of the more famous ones was the hot coffee case, where a lady received $2 million for supposedly spilling coffee on her lap. But when you look deeper into that case, this was a senior citizen lady that spilled scalding hot coffee with tons of complaints about that entity's coffee being too hot, and she received third-degree burns on the inside of her thighs and that area. So I don't think that would be considered what we consider a frivolous lawsuit once the facts are brought out. So, there's a very line that you got to walk here to make sure that you protect the rights. But yes, frivolous lawsuits are one that needs to be looked at. May have been able to do that bill smaller by doing a loser pay. If you go to court, loser pays the court cost of the other one. I believe Texas also has that.
We had a community voice recently with 2 local attorneys, Kate Perry and John Jackson, and that's archived on our YouTube channel. Obviously,
I know them well, both.
Yeah, obviously they take a different position on Senate Bill 68 and 69. They're very much opposed to it, but they make some good points. But yeah, it is a cautionary avenue to be in.
Well, to step back about 20 years ago, when I was in the House, we had Senate Bill 3, which did pass, which ruled unconstitutional. This put caps on lawsuits, and on that bill right there, back in 2005, I did not think that was a constitutional bill and voted against it at that time, and the courts ended up ruling it was unconstitutional the way that bill was drafted.
We're going to take another break. We got plenty more with State Senator Tim Bearden, District 30, after these words.
The Entrepreneur Scholar Journey at Oak Mountain Academy is designed to provide students with a clearly defined curriculum-based track to acquire essential knowledge and skills for success in business and leadership. Critical areas include identifying entrepreneurial characteristics, selecting a value position, and business model development. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Consider the Mobius strip. Take a strip of paper, twist it, connect the ends. This connection forms a continuous loop. Seamless, infinite. That's how your healthcare should be too. At Tanner Health, the Mobius is our symbol and our promise, representing our continuum of care and our commitment that the services you need will be here for you always. We're not just changing healthcare, we're redefining it. See more at tanner.org.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Crack, your host. I'm going to be talking fast so we can squeeze as much as we can in. The budget this year, $37.7 billion. Good or bad, and I guess a little more than half is still funded toward education.
Yeah, most of it is. I was just looking at your list. We got a whole lot to go through that you want to talk about here. But on the budget, let's talk about the state income tax. Again, this year we were able to reduce the state income tax this time from 5.39% to 5.19%.
Why don't we get rid of it?
Good question. And can we get rid of it? There's a couple options I think there's there. First one.
I bet you don't know. In 1895, Supreme Court ruled that the income tax was unconstitutional. It's also the second plank of the Communist Manifesto, the progressive income tax. So, your turn. My turn.
Appreciate the history.
Thank you.
Once upon a time, you had to carry two guns to church, too, in the state of Georgia. So just a little history there on the Second Amendment.
What was your side?
But to get back to, can you eliminate the state income tax? Yes. There's a couple ways you got to do it. I think there would have to be a lot of conversations because we had totally changed the way we do day-to-day business. Couple options. Raise property tax? No. We pay enough in property taxes. Increase the state income tax to the point where you really do damage to small businesses to make up the money if you do it. Third, and the one that could get you there, and this is where the conversation will have to come into play at, everything that you do not pay a sales tax on, such as services, haircuts. I know you save money, but anyway.
What's a haircut?
But haircuts are plumber coming to the house. The things that you don't currently pay a tax on now are things that you have to pay a state income tax, or not a sales tax on, to eliminate that. So is there a way to get there? Yes. Is there a lot of education or conversation that would take place to make sure people understand what we are about to do? I think that would be a very important piece of this. Just like any important piece of legislation, you got to be able to speak to the people and let them know what's about to happen to make sure they can support it or not.
Along those lines, these are my numbers. In 1984, 6.1 million people lived in the state of Georgia. Currently, 11.1 million people live. Back in 1984, the state budget was $5.3 billion, and now it's 37.7. So the population effectively doubled, but the amount of the budget has grown sixfold. If you adjust that for inflation, I mean, conservatively, it's still grown threefold.
Yeah.
So, I mean, i.e. spending cuts?
Well, you got spending, but you also got to look at things such as cost. Healthcare costs, which has gone very high. Imprisonment for incarceration. Yeah, there are things out there, but when you break down per capita, we're still one of the lowest state income taxes in the nation.
We're going to talk about education a little bit more, but we have state budgets for education,
Mhm.
60% of property taxes for education. We got East Bloss now. I
Mhm.
mean, are we getting our money's worth education-wise?
That's a good question. I think that's one of the reasons why you've seen us push different bills, pushing a little bit more towards opportunities for parents to send their kids to schools they want to with school
Perfect
choice.
segue. We call it on radio. Tell me about House Bill 340,
Well,
taking cell phones out of elementary schools.
I would want to say also on the budget, we also fully fund $141 million to make
For
sure
QE.
that those kids
Yeah,
that are
for
eligible
K-12.
for those that are in those failing school districts, for those kids to be able to go to different schools, which are very important. So,
Is that going to give entanglements with State Department of Education for private schools if they take some of that money?
no.
It's not. Okay. Well, let's move on to cell phones, because that's like everybody's got an opinion about cell phones and what it does to children.
And we all usually got more than one of them. So, cell phones, not opinions on, but Senate Bill 340 is one that I like the bill. It it states that from grades kindergarten through 8th grade, you cannot have a cell phone in the classroom. Now, there may be an exception there if it's a device learning and you got to use it, but usually the schools provide those type of devices. But the reason this is so important, we want our kids, we really want this bill to go through K through 12, but kind of like the opt-out, opt-in version.
Yeah.
We didn't have the votes at this time to make it go through 9th grade through 12th grade. Right now, we had testimony showing a child usually receives approximately 120 plus notifications on their phone a day in the classrooms during the school day. 120 notifications where the child is not learning when they're being distracted that much in the classroom. I've had several conversations with educators since this bill has passed, since we got out of session. They absolutely love the idea. The ones I talked to think we should take it all the way through K through 12. And again, hopefully we will. But right now, the key on this is to make sure that they're learning, listening to the educator. We have great education here in District 30, and we need to make sure the kids are there to learn. So I think this would be a great way to help even build social skills instead of looking down and texting or texting.
It's passed.
They passed. Yes.
Become law. So how are the schools going to confiscate all these cell phones?
Oh, let's not use the word confiscate on that phrase. It's simple.
The kids will probably use that word.
Don't put it in the book bag. Don't have it out on the desk. I mean, if the phone's on the desk, it's easy accessible. But if I got it in my book bag, it's not on the desk. It's not accessible to me. So we're not a confiscation piece on it, but to make sure that they're not being distracted during education time. It also makes sure that they're speaking to one another. I mean, how many times we go into a restaurant and seeing people just texting back and forth and sitting right across from each other.
It's awful.
And communication skills are vitally important, especially now for our workforce. Mm-hmm. And the earlier that we can get our kids having social interactions instead of cell phone interactions, that's going to be a lot better to have conversations. So uniformly
across the state, the cell phones have got to stay in the book bag, period.
Yeah,
for these grades.
Yeah, if they want to put a thing on the wall, they put their cell phones in, that'd be fine. But they're not going to be, they cannot be using the cell phone during the class. Okay.
All right. Again, I thank everyone for bearing with us as we jump around a lot, but understand one of the toughest state legislations around regarding fentanyl is now a state of Georgia. I think it's SB 79. Didn't you co-sponsor that?
I did co-sponsor that. We had a couple of bills go, and I had one that started trafficking at 1 gram. This one actually starts at 4 grams, and there were some conversations on that too. If someone's addicted, we want to make sure that people that need help can get help. Those that are bringing this poison in for the distribution process of it or aspect of it, they go to prison for a long time. And this bill does make Georgia one of the toughest states in the nation to try to combat fentanyl. And the sad thing is there's other drugs out there coming right behind fentanyl that's just as dangerous, if not more dangerous.
Really?
It's a constant battle for our law enforcement. But luckily, and if things keep on continuing the trend where the less people come across this country illegally at the southern border, this should also help us in the fight on things such as fentanyl and other drugs coming across.
Okay. You mentioned it, and I kind of blew past it, but SROs funding to make schools more secure through more officers?
Yeah, what we've done is over the last several years, we have put a lot of money into the local schools for school safety. We did a big school safety bill this year as well. Had a lot of moving parts to that one. But, just trying to make sure that the kids are in an environment that are safe to learn in, our teachers are in a safe environment to teach in. Again, I think as we move forward with technology, things are going to be changing to help us make our schools more secure.
Yeah, y'all allocated tens of thousands for each school, I think.
It was, and that's been occurring pretty much since about 2018.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
let me ask real quick about there's so much more I want to ask about. Let's go ahead and mention RFA. It finally passed after about a decade.
Yeah, the Religious Freedom Act did pass. It was been around probably in the legislature probably 10 years, I guess. It did pass under Nathan Dill's tenure, but he vetoed the bill. So it's been coming back every year, and it finally passed this year. And I believe that was the first bill Governor Kemp signed into law this year.
And
that was a long process.
The federal RFA, I think Clinton signed in the early 90s, and
Correct.
the states gradually, I think we're up to 36 states.
Yeah, it's a majority of the states that's done this. It may be even more than 36.
That was because of the Supreme Court ruling taking the First Amendment freedom of religion and moving it to like a third-tier freedom, and this restores it to the First Amendment status. So, okay, if people want to contact you, they got any more questions, or they want to blow a gasket, how should they contact you?
They can several ways. Call me on the cell phone. They can reach out via email. Go to the General Assembly site. Click a link. You can also, I think, submit questions right there off the as well. But any way that we can help the constituents, more than happy to
I think
talk to them.
You've got a constituent you're helping as soon as this program is over.
I believe we are, yes. So
is this become more of a full-time job than a part-time job, or?
Even back in the when I was in the state house, it was it's pretty much a full-time job. You're always trying to, especially out of session, there's a lot of constituent services that go along with this job. No matter if it's something on the state level or if it's let's say it's a Veterans Affairs issue, then we can also work with our congressman or congresswoman to help make sure they get connected to the right people to get the help they need. The biggest part of our congressional district is Brian Jack's office, and we work closely with Congressman Jack and his team, and they're great to work with. And we got 3 congressional districts in our Senate district. So
sounds good.
Sounds good. I appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you for coming in. I thank for everybody bearing with us as we try to run through a whole lot of important stuff real quickly. And I think, we didn't get to school zone cameras. We'll have to sell that.
Well, it's coming back next year when session starts. House did pass something pretty good at the end, so it's coming back to us, and we'll be looking at that very closely.
We didn't get to that. Policing for a profit is a no-no.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. And
okay.
Again, just want to let the folks know it's an absolute honor and pleasure getting to serve the 30th District here at the state capitol.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our sponsors. Go out and make it a great day. You're in tune to WLBB Carrollton.